Hey, everybody, welcome to the Bass Shed Podcast. My name's Ryan Roberts. All right, so today on the show we have bass player Bryan Ladd. I met Bryan out here. He's been out here a few years from New York. He's an electric player. And we talked a lot about the difference between LA and New York and um, and the similarities between the two. It was pretty interesting conversation. Kind of day in the life feel, right? There was nothing necessarily all that groundbreaking, but it was a good chance to connect with him. Um, this episode does go a little long, and because of that, I'll try to keep this part on the front a little shorter. Um, like I had been trying to keep them all around an hour, hour and 15 minutes, something like that. I know the one with Stu Ham was a little shorter. Um, But I think I'm going to stop that. Like, I'm just going to let it be whatever it's going to be. I really don't do much editing on these things. I did cut out a part where we talked about whether or not he was going to get a parking ticket on my street or not. I took that part out because that was kind of boring to listen to. And honestly, I didn't know if he was going to get a parking ticket. Um, so that's how that resolved. In case you were wondering, I didn't know what the rules on my street were about parking. And it turns out he did not get a parking ticket. What I do remember though is when we left and we're walking to his car to see if he got a parking ticket. There's this woman walking a dog, and Brian commented on the dog and said something very generic, like he's a happy little guy or something like that. Definitely referred to the dog as if the dog was male, but in this really just whatever kind of way. And the lady, I remember the lady. We recorded this back in April, by the way. Now it is June something. Is it June? Is it July? What month is this? Uh, 17th. It's July. It's July 17th. So we recorded this back in April, and I still remember that lady, and she just had this like look of disdain on her face when she corrected Brian about the gender of the dog, and I immediately got pissed at her for no reason other than like, what is wrong with you? Like, who cares? Maybe, well, obviously she cares. I can't ask that. Obviously she cares way too much about something so minuscule. Minuscule. That's how you pronounce that word. I definitely remember that. Um, and then that's it. That lady was just whatever, kind of a jerk for no reason. And Brian did not get a parking ticket, so that's what happened there. What's happening on the bass shed? I've been finishing up a lot of transcriptions. I've created practice tracks for all of them. And now I'm going to use this part of the podcast to talk about this. What I'm not doing with transcription based learning is creating bass karaoke. This is not bass karaoke. I'm not sure if I've ever said that before, but I want to be really adamant about this. This is not bass karaoke. Um, Transcription based learning is about learning all the nuance of the bass line and all the nuance of the musician that played the original recording. So really kind of masking what they do, feeling what they're feeling while they're laying it down, duplicating their sound and attack and articulations, all of it. So this is not a bass karaoke. Um, so I've been doing a bunch of transcriptions. You'll hear us talk about Chuck Rainey on here because I referenced the Sesame Street theme that I just learned was Chuck Rainey on bass. And so that sent me on I don't know, one night I was up all night just going through Chuck Rainey shuffles because I really like Chuck Rainey's shuffle, among other things, but I really like the way he plays the shuffle. And so I transcribed a Chuck Rainey shuffle that's going to be coming up, and I'm trying to build enough content before I do the unveiling of it all. Because honestly, I don't know how much is too much, and I don't know. I, there's obviously right. So hold on, let me get my words together. I'm gonna keep growing it, right, and keep adding to it and all that. But I want to have enough up there that it's not just you have to be interested in James Jamerson to be a part of this or not. So I'm trying to cover, a small handful of guys on the front end to at least create something, some interest from other people that might be, not. Some people don't get down with James Jamerson. That's fine. I'm not sure why they don't, but I know that they're out there. And that's cool. So we got Chuck Rainey. I'm finishing up a Scott LaFaro today. Um, Scott LaFaro solo, which is amazing and time consuming. But it's great. I love Scott LaFaro's playing. Who else is going to be on there? The first batch of people, we got Charlie Hayden, Jimmy Blanton, Sting, Pino Palladino, Chuck Rainey, Bob Babbitt, Jamerson, and Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney was fun. I like teaching Paul McCartney. I've had to do it quite a bit over the years. I picked some tunes that I hadn't taught before, but that I liked the bass lines for. And so they're up there. And what led me talking about all this is I've been creating practice tracks, right? Not bass karaoke, but I'm creating practice tracks so that technically you can get the transcription together and you can get the part together before working out all the details with the actual bass player. So by the time you get to playing a recording with Sting or Pino or any of these guys, you can then focus on just their nuance and masking their nuance, and you're not also fighting notes and rhythms and all that stuff. So the all the practice tracks are right down the middle. I purposely quantized them all, um, so that there isn't any feel to them really, right? Because I've played all these bass lines quite a bit when learning them and transcribing them and all that, and then what I've had to do to create the videos for them. Um, so I'm really aware of what their little things are, and I didn't want those to be part of the practice tracks. So the practice tracks are sterile, and that's on purpose because they are completely out of the way and won't influence, hopefully, um, everything you're going to gain by actually learning it from the original bass player. So that's my little keynote speech on what's happening with the website. Um, Other than that, if you are enjoying the Bass Shed podcast at all, please go to thebasshed.com/podcast and sponsor the podcast. This does take time, energy, resources, all kinds of things to make happen. And if you would like to sponsor this, that would be great. Obviously, I do not run ads during this, and I hope not to. I don't really want to have to do that. I like just being able to get into the conversation with the guy and let the listener follow the arc that we're on, without breaking it up for an ad to sell home security or something else. So that's that. And turns out I did not keep this part short, but here's the conversation with Bryan Ladd.
Picking up some gigs with them last year.
Okay.
But they do a lot of. So basically, I do most of the stuff in the States with them, and if it's a random, out of the country travel date. But the thing is, they do a lot of gigs in Europe, and they have a dude in London.
Just for costs.
Yeah, who just kind of picks up with them when they do the Europe stuff. That's been doing it for years. So.
Where's the band based out of?
Here now. It started in New York.
Okay.
Christian and the keyboard player who started it, they're all from New York. The original keyboard player actually died.
Oh shit.
Yeah, just very, very suddenly.
Recently, suddenly?
This was
or just
4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
OD?
No, he I want to say an aneurysm, but it was something like that.
Okay.
An aneurysm or a not a stroke. Yeah, I think it was an aneurysm.
How old was he?
40?
Oh, that's young.
Yeah, no, way too young to be having shit like that happen,
yeah.
for sure.
I've had 4. Seriously.
4 aneurysms.
Yeah. Car accident.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Brain dead, in a coma.
When was this?
This was I was young. I was 20, 21, 22. Like
So-
somebody ran a red light, and I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, and I was in my dad's old Jeep, right? Old CJ7, no doors, no top on, because it was April. It was actually today. That's crazy.
Was it 22nd, 23rd?
It was right around this. It was like the 22nd or the 23rd. Of like, oh man, I don't know what that was. 03?
Oh, damn, dude.
Yeah. And then like my girlfriend at the time found out about it because it was on the news. Yeah, yeah. It was,
Where was this here?
No, this is in Phoenix.
Okay.
I'm born and raised in Phoenix. So, yeah. And lost my sense of taste and smell for a while because of nerve damage. I had dementia.
So, all right. So, wow. So, okay,
Yeah. It explains so much.
So you got in this accident, and then you were in a coma for how long?
Just the night, I believe.
And you had these brain aneurysms during that time?
The aneurysms were, I think, due to impact. Like I've never. My mom actually just mailed this somewhere around here. My mom just mailed me the police report because I've never read it. And she was talking about it last time I was there, and I'm like, oh, send it over. Like I'm just, it's been a while. I'm fine. I'm curious.
Sure.
I've only, like, it's kind of just a story I tell. I don't remember any of it. I remember leaving the gas station, and then a friend of mine were going to get dinner, like at Denny's or something. And I remember leaving the gas station and then waking up in the hospital.
Damn.
So, like, I blacked it all out. I don't know anything.
So you probably just pulled out of the gas station, and that's when you think it happened, huh?
I remember the gas station. So I pulled out of the gas station and went down to, like, the major street, and I was going to hang a right. This is what I know from the police report. I was going to make a right, and I started to slow down, and there, cross traffic just turned red, and the minivan was trying to beat it. And, I don't know, I guess I didn't see her or whatever, but I was making a right because mine was green now. I guess assuming she'd stop. She didn't.
Man, that's crazy. You're the second guy I know who's been in a serious accident because someone was trying to beat a red light.
Really?
Yeah, a buddy of mine back in Brooklyn. He's good now, but he was in a serious wreck because some idiot lady ran a red light, and like according to him, it was more than like.
Does he remember it?
Yeah, he actually remembers this.
I mean, I'm thankful I don't remember
Yeah.
it. That's a total silver lining on the story is that I can't recall any of it. Otherwise, I'd never get in a car again.
Sure. But she more than ran the light. Like it had been red for a while,
okay.
and just
Right. Was she boozed up?
They weren't. She bolted,
Oh man.
and they couldn't really. They found her. They got in touch with her later, but they couldn't
Right.
test her at the time.
Can't do a toxicology thing or whatever that's called.
Yeah, you can't do that a week later. Or
Right.
whatever, so,
right.
So yeah, man, that's fucked up.
Yeah. And that was crazy. But I mean, I can't identify with passing from one, but I know a little bit about it.
So yeah, I think that's what happened to him. So, it's a cool band. It's like they do well in the States and they do really good overseas.
Nice.
I went to South Africa with them a couple times this past.
I remember that. That was
year.
like a few months ago, right?
I went once in August for a couple of dates, and then we went again in December.
Right.
And the December trip, Christian was actually there for a long time, for like a couple of weeks, doing like some interviews and recordings and stuff. I just went down for like these like 2 gigs or so.
Okay. Christian, the main guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, drummer singer.
Oh, right, right.
It's his project.
Okay.
But man, it's crazy. Like one of these festivals we did, I mean, it was like well over. I mean, between 10 and 15,000 people.
Yeah.
You know, for a live house band trio thing, and a couple other bands, but
Sure.
But I guess what happened was like they don't. It's a different.
Do you want water or anything?
Yeah. It's funny, man. It's like a different system there. They don't do as far as radio play, they don't do the payola shit there. So.
Okay.
And they really like that kind of dance shit.
Right, like the European dance vibe?
Yeah. I mean, especially in Johannesburg. So, I guess a couple of the big DJs down there got a hold of that first record they did and just spun the shit out of it. because they could.
Original music?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now they're like basically like rock stars in a few select cities. It's funny.
Crazy.
It's not gonna be like that in Vegas,
Yeah.
but it'll be cool.
We're going.
Yeah.
We're up and you want to tuck the mic in a little?
Hey.
I'm going the wrong way.
So man, how long you been doing this?
Check 1 2. This is this will be the beginning of me launching season 2 of the podcast.
Cool.
Yeah. Like I was doing them week to week, and like it was like I didn't have any in the tank. You know, like I'd call a cat and be like, "All right, dude, I'm coming over Wednesday." You know, edit it all, like get a picture from him, get his bio, do research. So this time I'm like, I'm gonna build up a few, pace myself.
So are you launching this like from you have like a website you're doing this from, or is it...
the brand is the Bass Shed, right?
Okay.
So what that is that's this online lessons thing I'm doing. That's all transcription based. So a perfect example.
Oh, that's right. We were talking about this.
Yeah, so I transcribe, teach the transcription, and then like
That's
all
a good
the
one.
characteristics of it.
Ah.
So like, you know, the Jamerson's open string thing about how he would shift when using open strings. That'll be part of it. How he, you know, the tension and release in his time feel. All the Jamerson characteristics.
Nice, dude. Yeah, you picked some good ones.
Yeah. Man, I've had to learn like not only this, but I've had to learn like video editing too. Like I've been up since like 11 last night.
Wow.
Editing videos.
What do you do it on Final Cut, or what do you?
Premiere. And like I don't know anything about it. So like my brother has the Adobe Suite subscription. He's like, dude, I'll just sign you in and like go for it. All right, cool. Just checking out all these YouTube tutorials and trying to figure it out. Yeah. I mean that's cool about it. Is there's enough information out there to learn about it all easily. But it's a big time suck.
Yeah.
Like just the transcribing is a time suck. Not a time suck, but like that takes time to get it right. And then I'm releasing it to everybody, so oh dude, that's not what he played. Like it's actually this rhythm, you know. Like someone's gonna vibe me out on it at some point.
And maybe it was, but you know what? Suck a dick.
Yeah. right. Yeah. Right. Right. And then I write it out in tab and like, how do you know he played it there? I don't know. Because I wrote it out for you. You transcribe it,
you
dick.
don't. Yeah, you figure it out.
That's my standpoint.
And guess what? If you ask Jamerson,
yeah.
what were you doing? How did you play this? He's gonna say, I don't fucking remember.
Right,
I just
shut
did
up.
it.
Right. I was drunk.
But so goes the world of
yeah, right.
online content and YouTube and.
Oh man, that's been such a thing. Like, do you do it? Do you give online lessons at all, or like Skype lessons, or?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Still the one-on-one thing though.
It's one-on-one. I haven't actually like recorded myself teaching a lesson, then made it like public.
Yeah.
It's all just like I have like maybe depending upon the, you know, the time of year,
Sure.
I'll have anywhere from 3 to maybe half a dozen students a week.
Yeah.
That I just you know just pick a time and
Sure.
sign on and talk and play some bass.
Right.
You know, some of whom a couple of them are actually in-person students I had when I was back in New York.
And they're out here now?
And no, they wanted to continue, and I said, okay, well, if you...
I know a drummer that does a lot of that.
Yeah. So I said, if you don't mind doing it over the computer from now on, because I'm not going to commute.
Right.
You know, and they were like, yeah, sure, let's do it that way. And then, you know, a few people that, you know, stumbled onto some of my stuff online and...
Yeah, what do you got online?
I mean, just, you know, some videos on YouTube that have been floating around there for a while, and...
Do you have a record on? Do you have a solo record?
I don't have my own record.
No? Is that something you're interested in?
Yes. Although, you know, I've never really had enough material that I was... like... How do I say this? Never had enough material that I was passionate about enough all at the same time...
To release it as one batch?
To make it as one record.
Yeah,
so what I've been kind of doing every couple of years or so, you know, I'll just get like, you know, 2, 3, 4 things ready to go, and I'll record it in a studio, have someone videotape it, you know, so we got some decent footage, and then, you know, that'll go on YouTube and all the...
just content websites.
And all the... Yes.
Yeah.
content websites. That's what
Yeah,
we call them.
I guess I don't know. That's just what it is to me. It's like you're always doing a commercial for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That's what
Silly.
it is. I mean, I'd be totally down to do a record if I ever felt happy with a large enough amount of material
Right.
within the span of a year or whatever it would take to do it.
Right. I mean, I think I still got some tunes floating around that I wrote like 5-6 years ago that never really got the due justice.
Mhm.
That I think if I were ever gonna do one, I'd dust them. Like, yeah, I still like the tune. It's just never really nothing happened with it,
Yeah.
but I still like it.
Yeah, or maybe you have like a couple of really great ones, but don't quite make sense with the
Right,
rest
the
of
other
it
thing,
or
yeah.
something, so you shelf it or whatever. Do you have a record out of your own?
No.
Okay.
No. I've tried a few times. You know Dan Cole. Guitar? Do you ever go to his house? Yeah, I know he does these like recording sessions, these pickup sessions frequently. Do you ever do
Dan
one of those?
Cole? No, I don't think so.
Guitar guy. I think I want to get him to do one. Like he just had a kid,
Mhm.
and that'll come into play in a second. He's also working on doing a record. Initially, I think it was going to be with me and Steve Haas.
Okay.
But he's like, dude, I'm having a kid now. I think I'm just going to pony up the money and get Vinny and Haslip. I'm like, yeah, all right. Great.
Fair enough.
But I had played through a bunch of those tunes with him. And then we talked about doing a duo record just because I love duo records.
Cool.
So maybe. And I'm like, dude, at some point, like, if you ever get just like, you need to play, you know, like, I'll come over and put up some mics and let's just do it. So maybe that's how that'll happen. I don't know. If I don't do it, I'll never do it. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
exactly. If I don't, like, actually, like, all right, no matter what, I'm just doing this.
Mhm.
Even if I hate it, I have to see it to completion. Because, I mean, I've talked about doing them forever. And then surviving gets in the way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Like, playing gigs and just doing whatever you have to do to pay rent.
Yeah.
And then the last thing you're doing is writing tunes or emailing dudes to rehearse or whatever.
Right.
Uh.
I mean, I can relate in the sense that, you know, just making the move out west here.
Right.
You know, that kind of puts.
How long ago was that? Let's talk about that.
It's been just about. It'll be 2 years in the summer.
Okay.
So
So what
it's-
brought you out?
Well, a few things. So I mean, I will say this. I still love New York, and I still think it's an amazing place. But the scene there was just gradually getting more and more kind of stale.
Okay.
At least for me, it was.
And now, what circles were you running in?
I was doing a little bit of everything, but I was mostly playing, at least as far as the in-town stuff. I was doing I was playing a lot of gigs like on West 3rd Street. That was like a block which had that's where like the Village Underground was
Okay.
when they had music, and this spot called the Groove, which I used to play at all the time. The Blue Notes, right there too. Would play there sometimes, and then those were mostly like soul music, R&B kind of clubs.
Okay. Were you just were these pickup gigs, or were you in a project that would kind of work in the circuit a little bit?
Most of them were kind of like weeklies.
Okay.
Like there was I used to play every Tuesday at the Village Underground with this one band that kind of had a thing.
Yeah.
I would play for a while. I was playing every Monday over that spot called Groove with with a couple of people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. I mean, the bands were great, and the music was great. We weren't doing a lot of original stuff over there.
Okay.
And then I would also, do gigs at this place called Rockwood.
Sure.
over in East on the Lower East Side. That's kind of where more of like, people would play their original music and do
Right.
those kind of gigs.
Is that where you met Ryan Vaughn?
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
Come to think of it, I think we did because he was he was kind of running this little hang called the After Party.
Right.
Over
He's
at
always managing something.
Yeah,
I like that
and
guy.
it was just kind of a hang, and like a bunch of musicians and singers would show up, and everyone would play a song or two, and
Yeah.
just an excuse to kind of get together and play a little bit of music.
Sure.
So yeah, I did meet him there, and then on the jazz front, I would play at 55 Bar sometimes, an occasional Blue Note gig, and then some of those gigs would even just pop up at whatever place would would have that kind of
Yeah,
music.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it wasn't always necessarily like a jazz place
Right.
where you'd play that kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
which is I think that's I don't know if that's really unique to New York City, but
When I think of New York City, and I think of New York, like I've been there a few times, but I haven't like really hung there.
mhm.
When I think about that scene and that jazz scene, how is the electric accepted there?
Well, in the traditional scene, it's not at all.
Sure.
Um, I mean,
But in any kind of like cutting edge creative music scene, or do they still want an acoustic bassist?
well, in the more, I guess we'll call it, kind of, in the scene of the more modern contemporary stuff, it's kind of is. I feel like it was kind of 50-50.
Okay.
You know, there would be some guys whose music they would still want the acoustic bass, and that's cool. And then
Yeah.
there'd be a lot that would, that would be very electric bass forward.
Yeah.
And you know, the kind of cool thing about that is, you know, I still play with this band's been a little quiet this year, but we did a record last year in New York. I started playing with this band called Progger, which is like
Okay.
it's like the game Frogger, but with a P.
Okay.
And you'd
I was
think,
actually gonna make a joke, but I'm like, maybe there's.
well,
know,
and you'd think by that name it would be a Rush tribute prog
Right,
rock
right,
band,
yeah.
but it's actually not at all. It's my friend Brian Donahoe started that band, and it's sort of you know, he's a lot of the band kind of started in Texas, so it's I guess you could kind of call it an offshoot of that band Snarky Puppy, that sort
Okay.
of vibe, because it's a lot of those same guys from that same Texas inbred family of
the same
people.
kind of real like modular writing like that, where it's very section based.
Some of it was.
Okay.
Some of it, yeah. Well, in fact, Brian, the guy who started this band, was the original tenor player in Snarky Puppy, so he kind
Okay.
of saw a lot of that
Sure.
thing.
Right.
But getting back to how that what was going on in New York, so I mean, you know, that band we would play at like jazz type spots, and then we would also play at Rockwood, which is not really a jazz place at all.
Sure.
So it was just, you know, like any music that's even remotely, I guess you'd call, you know, experimental. You know, you just kind of find wherever it will have it.
yeah. Right.
You know?
Right. You'll let us do this here? Okay.
Mhm.
Great. We'll be there. So then, what was it that brought you out? Were you just leaving? How do I say this? Were you leaving New York, or were you coming to L.A.?
It was more of a coming to LA thing.
Okay.
There's at the end of the day, there's just more work here right now.
Yeah.
It's been a slow burn for me since I got here, for sure, because there's a lot of people out here. But
Yeah.
there's definitely more to be had, and it just seems, at least at the moment, it seems a little more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the type of work out here, you know, all the the touring stuff and the recording world. I mean, there's just, you know, it's just as you know, it's just more of an industry
Yeah.
town for sure.
Sure.
I
I mean,
so,
sessions have dropped off severely. Like when I got here, I was doing actually a lot of hip hop sessions when I got here.
Mhm.
But like, then it turned into the singer-song. Like I was playing upright on singer-songwriter records. That was a session thing. Man, like sessions just super few and far
yeah, that's for sure.
between now. Like, you know, everybody's got a buddy who plays bass and they got an M-Box.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's you know, technology took over
Yeah.
and made it I mean, it's cool that everything is that approachable. I like that.
Exactly.
But it also screws the profession a little bit.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's my take on it is basically what you said. It's like you can it's way easier to put yourself out there and
Sure.
you know, and actually have some kind of impact as an artist.
Right.
But yeah, it's absolutely messed up the economic side of it, for sure.
Yeah.
But getting back to what you're saying about sessions, there's still more of that going on out here than there was in New York.
Okay.
At least for me. I mean,
Sure.
I'm sure you could talk to someone who's been in New York forever and has been crushing it forever, and they're going to tell you something totally different.
Right.
So And in New York, it started to feel a little like I'd kind of hit a ceiling as far as what I could do there, as far as the the contacts I had and the and you started to feel like the hamster on the wheel thing a little bit.
Yeah.
And what really didn't help, this is the thing I tell pretty much everybody when they ask what's going on over there. I say, well, New York, it's always been that stereotypically, quote, tough place to live, but if you just stick with it and blah blah blah, blah you'll find your space, and
Sure.
And you'll some things will happen, which is true. But what happened was it went from being expensive and a grind to live there to being ridiculously expensive.
How long were you there?
I was there about a little over 10 years.
Okay. Where from originally?
So I was born in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
About an hour and a half, 2 hours from the city.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was born there. I did the Berkeley thing, in Boston for a little bit, and then moved right to New York after school, and just kind of planted myself there.
Sure. Now, did you have like I know out here there's a bunch of Berkeley dudes that all kind of roll together. Like I didn't graduate from the school, so I don't have that kind of peer connect with there's USC guys that all kind of when they all got out of USC together, they kind of came up together, and then their careers split. And then the Berkeley dudes, when they all got here, there's the Miami guys. Was that kind of a thing, like coming from Berkeley to New York? Did you come with some peers, and you're like, all right, we're all band of brothers?
Absolutely.
Vibe? Okay.
Absolutely. And exactly what you just said, happened. People kind of find, different paths and, start doing other stuff. But what's been cool about coming out here to LA is there's a whole nother sect of people I went to school with that, decided to make the move out here right after school.
Sure.
So it's been really cool getting to kind of reconnect with, with a lot of those folks.
Yeah. What year did you graduate?
I was out of there in 2006.
2006.
Yeah.
So
it's been a little while now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who is in your class that's out here.
It's out here. Me and my buddy Rustlin used to play together all the time.
Okay, yeah.
And he's someone I hardly ever saw until
You guys just did Oz Noise record, right? Or was Oz Noise on the record? What happened? Like I saw you post about that, and I wanted to talk to you about the record you just did with Oz, because I'm a big Oz Noise fan.
Oh yeah, no, Oz is great. That wasn't actually a record though. So
okay.
Rustlin and do you know this guy? Do you know this guy named Roy Karaoke?
No.
Another Israeli cat.
No.
They, along with this other Israeli dude who's a drummer named Asher Fetty, they have kind of a hookup at a studio over in Woodland Hills.
Okay.
So every few weeks to a month, we'll just figure out when everybody's around, and we'll just show up
and just do stuff,
work out a tune, record it, make a little video, and go home.
Yeah.
So Oz was involved with that one because it was right around NAMM, and Roy and Oz are homies.
Okay.
They're guitar homies, and they're both originally from Israel too. So, so Oz came over, and we did one of those sessions was with him. We just did one tune with him though, and it was great. I mean, he played his ass off as you would expect.
Yeah, that's great. Where were we? All right, so you
go
to
Berkeley
New York
stuff
from Berkeley, and then what were the gigs that you got? You kind of picked up as soon as you get there. Or how'd you get into the scene? I guess did you have you start studying with someone who grandfathered you in, or you just kind of hit the pavement every night? And
it was a pavement thing.
Yeah,
that's kind of the only way I've had really been able to get any traction.
Yeah.
in any scene that I've found my way into. I mean, I've definitely had some teachers who have been helpful, but the vast majority of the traction, we'll call it, I've gotten has just been from showing up to places,
right, and just being there, just being out.
New York definitely had a very healthy scene of show up, hang out till the end, play a few songs at the end, meet some people, and as it goes, when house bass player X is gone, okay, now we need you.
Right.
And it just kind of built from there. And since coming to LA, it's been pretty much the same method for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Granted, I did, just from being older and having, between some Berkeley contacts and a lot of people I know from New York that came out here shortly before I did, the New York to LA thing has been a little bit of an easier transition than the straight out of school to New York thing.
Sure.
But it's still the same method. I'm still out, pretty much anywhere from 4 to 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
Showing up.
I used
hanging
to do
out
that,
and-
man. I can't. Like, I think I'm a little bit right now in LA, like you were talking about New York, just hamster on the wheel, just like, I don't know. I'm not gonna say I hit a ceiling here, but little burnout, just little,
Yeah,
another
man.
gastro pub in another corner and another like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah. I think that'll kind of happen anywhere that you spend enough time in.
Like I've been out here since '06.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like a lot of clubs have closed since I've been out here, and I know a lot of guys, and that's cool. I'm thankful for that. But you get in this little niche of doing these things, then you're always just doing that thing, and then you get burnt out on it. You got to take some time off, then you end up getting into another thing, and the same cycle repeats, and
Right.
you get burnt out on that one.
I mean, everything. I think that's just kind of the nature of any. I don't know, of any business, really. I mean, once you and it's. I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's just more of a. I think it's just more of a reality than we think it's supposed to be. If that makes any sense. Meaning like I think everything kind of becomes a black hole after a certain thing. Even the best gig in the world.
Sure.
You got guys that are playing for Billy Joel, and by the third year of doing that, it's like, yeah, okay, it's great, but it's a gig, and I'd probably rather do something different. But
sure.
Not that I'm not going to turn this down, of course.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess for me, I've been trying to.
How do you keep it fresh? What do you have an outlet? Do you write music? Or you what are you doing to creatively keep your thing fresh? Because when you do get in these ruts, I know for me, like my playing will get stale.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the first kind of blip on the radar. It's like, all right, something's got to change here. Like my playing's starting to suffer. I mean, I could be working a lot, but it's all the same gigs and it's all the same situation, and it's just paint by numbers and.
Right, and I'm sure you're crushing it, but in your mind, you're sick of your own playing.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, that's the worst. Right, I'm so tired of hearing myself play.
Yeah, well, I'm in a little bit of a different spot right now, just because, this is still a very new scene for me. 2 years really isn't that long of a time in a big place like this, so. That is kind of taking care of itself in a way, just by nature of just having to do different things than
right. Still just being out and making the hangs and all that.
Right, yeah. Which that by the time my last few years in New York, I just wasn't doing very much of that, just because you've been to everything.
You know them. You know what I mean, and they know you. And it's
right.
just like, if you're gonna call me for a gig, you have my number.
Right, and it's like even if you're just going to check something out,
right.
At a certain point, and well, this is gonna come off weird. I don't mean like there was nothing new going on.
No, I know what you mean.
But you after a certain point, you get a little burnt going to the same rooms, and So
no, I feel you. I don't know, and I think some of that is taking. I know for me, taking the scene for granted a little bit.
For sure.
Like if I still lived in Arizona and. Abe Laborio was at the Potato, and I could just drive out for the night. If I had the time, I would probably do that. And now it's like it's right down the street. It's like, maybe I'll go if someone will put me on the list. Mm-hmm. Other than that, like I don't want to pay a cover. Like I just become so. What's the word? Not jaded. It's not jaded.
No,
it's like I take it for granted.
Yeah, it becomes the norm.
Yeah, there's so much great talent around all the time. It's just like I don't want to leave the house.
Right.
They'll still be there tomorrow or next week or whenever the thing is. And you just, for me, I don't make the hangs. And then that becomes a pattern.
Yep.
But there's definitely music that is inspiring to go check out.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And what's been really cool for me is, so there's all the, the heavyweights in New York that you grow up listening to and hearing, and you get to hear them and actually see them play because New York is their home base.
Right.
Um,
Who are your guys?
I mean, I used to.
I mean, I'm sure we all have the same, handful of core.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
as far as guys in New York that I would go see, I mean, I loved going to see Anthony Jackson play. I mean,
Okay.
he's still has been for a very long time and still is probably my number one dude.
He's on your base Mount Rushmore?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
definitely. Maybe I don't know if he's necessarily, he might be number one, but yeah, he's definitely one of the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, all right.
So I used to love going to see him if he was at the 55 bar or the Blue Note or wherever the hell. Let's see, who else did I get to see? It was just, well, and then there were some kind of like not necessarily famous dudes, but were kind of like New York legends. Like there was this dude named Ron Long in New York who I used to love going to watch. Long,
Okay.
Long, yeah.
Okay.
He's he was just.
So he's just a working guy in New York?
I mean, he was more than just a working dude. I mean, he was, he played for like he played for like a lot of those tours in the '90s.
Okay.
Like Mary J. Blige and like those kind of people,
okay.
and it was just probably one of the funkiest people on the planet.
Okay.
I
was still thinking like electric jazz, Anthony Jackson type.
No, different,
okay.
different, totally different world.
Okay.
Yeah. He was always a lot of fun to go watch, and then maybe, I'd get to see Patitucci play sometimes, because that's, where he was based.
Right.
But again, after a while, you start to, and not that it gets old, but it's been cool coming out here and having a whole new batch of guys that I've always looked up to, like, like Jimmy Haslip and maybe Abe Laboriel and all those people who, don't really show up in New York all that often.
Right. They're kind of West Coasters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been really refreshing.
Sure. I mean, I feel like if I was in New York, I'd hit it hard. Like I'd go out every night, like checking out all the dudes and going to see Ron Carter and Larry Grenadier and all the dudes that I've. Yeah, that would cost me so much money, just going out.
Yeah. Well, but you know what though? After a while, you'd make friends with who you needed to make friends with, you'd probably stop getting charged a cover every time.
right. That'd be nice.
Yeah. You know how it works.
Yeah, I do. So cool. So we're back at the story. You're getting plugged in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just bouncing around doing groove jazz gigs. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah, we can call it that.
Okay.
And that was kind of my life there for most of it. Doing some original stuff with whoever, and then some of these sort of.
How close is the repertoire in that world to LA? Because LA, everybody does the same 40, 45 tunes.
It's, at least in the circle that I was kind of running in, there's definitely some crossover there, and then there's definitely some stuff that doesn't get played out here.
Yeah.
I forget who I was talking to about this, but New York definitely is a little more of a tune-centric place, I feel like, compared to here.
Well, you got to know a lot.
It's at least in the little world that I was in,
Sure.
it was kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And a lot, because a lot of these singers would want to do a lot of these kind of hipper, B-sides, which was great because it would be a lot of fun to do that.
Right.
But I found out here, especially like when you show up in like a jam situation, everybody just kind of wants, not always, but most of the time, everyone just kind of wants to vibe over something.
Yeah.
Which is cool too.
Can be.
But it's not the world that I'm coming from, I guess.
Right.
So, because I like playing songs.
Yeah.
I'm all for improvising, but I my preference is to center it around.
Yeah, give something some shape. Yeah, right. It gives you something to construct, right? Like I have to build an arc over this, and then with every soloist you get to do it again. Like when you're playing a form, I don't get into the vamp style playing. It's not my thing.
See, I think I do like it, but I like it when I'm playing with people I know a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm playing with 3-4 people that I've played with before and we have a pretty good understanding of where everyone's coming from, then that's the time to just kind of, you know,
Yeah, it's a different conversation.
pull the form out of the equation and just go for something.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, I'm always the dude that if it's like a first gig or just a sit-in situation, I'm always a dude that wants to play something that at least kind of ties everyone together.
Yeah.
To start with, anyway.
Sure, right.
You know, that way everyone's kind of speaking somewhat of the same language.
Well, let's hope. Let's
You know.
hope. Yeah. All right, so you're bouncing around. What's the? I don't want to say what's the goal. Is there aspirations of picking up more touring, more session work? Like, would you want a big pop gig?
I would love to do that.
Yeah?
I did come out here to kind of do more of the traveling stuff.
Okay.
You know, just because it's something different than what I was doing back east.
Right.
You know, most of what I was doing back there was pretty much all in town, and that's not all of it, but I'd say 80%. You know, I just wasn't on the road that much, and I do like to tour and travel. So,
Okay.
but because none of that work is going out of New York, you know, this is kind of the place to be.
Sure.
For that. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to get on more of that circuit, you know, playing with more of the pop artists, some of, you know, more of the, you know, the R&B artists, and that's been working out so far. I mean, within a couple years of being here, I've definitely logged more travel miles, you know, than I did for most of the time I was back on the East Coast. So,
Nice.
you know, not all of it has been, you know, heavy pop touring,
Right.
but it's definitely more streamlined with what I've been trying to make happen. So that's
Right.
that's good.
Okay.
But I'm a little bit of I'm kind of scattered. Like, I mean, I love playing, you know, jazz and improvisational stuff. But I mean, I love playing just pop and R&B tunes with singers.
Right.
So I'm not really married to the idea of it's got to be a pop tour, it's got to be a pop gig, or it's got to be a this thing. I mean, just
Right.
I just want to do something that's musically fulfilling,
Sure.
with people I like.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
got
that's the dream,
you
right?
know,
Yeah.
that's
It's got a little bit of money behind it.
that
you don't have the
financially
stress.
right.
Yeah.
That's financially, doesn't have to be a shit ton of money, but just something that makes sense.
right.
And you know, something that I feel like there's some room to grow.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to get in a gig where I could feel like, okay, this is only going to get better doing this for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
You know, as opposed to feeling like, oh, I can see this getting stale in 6 months, kind of thing.
Right. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about coming out to LA? Like, you're still. My early years in LA were like, that's. I can remember them, but
Yeah.
I don't know what advice. I'm too detached at this point, and I'm older. You know, I was
Sure.
24 when I got out here, so there's all the 24 involved with it. What would your advice be to someone coming out at any age or playing level?
Sure. Again, with the relatively short amount of experience I have out here, that's a good question.
Because I think I met this bass player named Pablo Mota.
Okay.
And Pablo, I think I knew he had moved back to Argentina, because he was a tango guy. He just wanted to play tango, and he went back there.
Interesting.
But he had subbed me a gig with Dennis Ham, and then after I met Dennis when it was like, I don't know, my first year of being here or something. I started to know a lot of guys through those two guys specifically. Like, then I just started meeting a bunch of dudes, and the piano bar was the hang.
Right.
You know,
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
That-
the piano bar was the best.
That was done before I got here,
Oh,
pretty much.
man.
That and what was the other spot that everyone used to go to? Cafe
yeah,
Cordial?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the other one I keep hearing about.
yeah, that was the
that I missed.
piano bar was that was it. So
To-
the
to
advice
my
would be
knowledge.
just get out there and get into circulation.
Oh yeah, the advice
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, thing number one, definitely be ready to go out and pound pavement and, you know, be friendly and talk to people, and
Sure.
that's one. I mean, that's just kind of new in town 101. I
Yeah.
think. You know.
Well,
so-
I mean, man, I don't even know. Yeah, it's that. I mean, yeah, I'm not even new in town, but I feel like my work is dipped off because I'm not out. You know, like I'm just not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not visible. I'm not like
Yeah.
super. I have no real online presence. You know, so I'm just not in people's face.
Yeah, but you're working, and it's
Yeah.
it gets that much harder to do the quote hanging when when you're working 3, 4, however many nights a week, because the couple nights you have off, you kind of need a night off sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I would say so definitely do that if when you get here, or really when you move to any new city.
Sure.
And then this is something I'm still trying to work on, but have a fairly clear vision of what you're trying to do.
Okay.
Doesn't have to. I mean, I don't how laser focused that has to be. That depends on who you're talking to. But
and how militant you're going to be about that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
There's guys that are like, I'm here to play avant-garde jazz and only avant-garde jazz. And look, if your focus is that dead, is that on, great.
Yeah.
I've never been quite that focused. For me, I've always just, I'm a bass player. I'm not really a writer, and I'm not a producer.
Okay. Any interest in either of those?
I mean, I do like writing from a rhythm section standpoint with people's projects and helping arrange. I do like helping arrange things.
Okay.
And being in the studio and kind of I guess what you would call maybe some little sideline producing, but
just kind of having a round table, kicking around ideas. Everybody in it for the nature of the tune, and let's
exactly
make this stronger.
I love being involved. I don't want to be that guy that's just like, tell me what to play,
right,
so I can do it and be. No. I mean, I definitely want to be involved, but
sure.
But I'm not at home really, doing tracks and writing songs for artists.
Right.
That's
that's a different world.
And I mean, it's an awesome world. I never caught that bug.
No, me neither. I'd like to. Like that's where I'm at with it. Like I kind of wish I had at some point, because it seems fun. It's another outlet of the creative process, but I can't. There's not enough that I know about it right now to keep me in it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
The first time. When did you start playing? Actually, when did you start playing the bass?
I was 12 years old. My pops is a bass player.
Right.
And I always kind of wanted to, but like even younger, because I would see him play, and I would go see his band and whatnot. But as the bass, you kind of have to be physically a certain size before you can even operate the thing.
Yeah.
Even the electric bass. I'm not talking about.
Right.
I'm not even talking about upright. I mean, just your arm just has to be a certain length to reach.
Yeah. No, I've had students that are like young kids, and they have to get the little Bronco bass. Otherwise, you can't really get your arm all the way down there and get the pressure into the string, and get your hand to stretch like that. And it's a grown folks instrument.
Yeah. So and I was not a tiny kid, but I was not a big kid to begin with. So, but I think by the time I was like 12 or 13, I was finally like big enough to kind of start messing with it. And I think when my pop saw that, oh, you actually like this, all right, let's get you a. It wasn't like a tiny bass, but it was like a short scale bass, like you see. Like
32, 33.
Yeah, I think it probably was like a 32 or something like that. So it was way more manageable. But it wasn't like one of those tiny Fenders you see a lot like little kids playing these days. I don't think they had those back in the mid 90s or whenever this was.
Right. Yeah, but but that's kind of where I was thinking. It's like the first time I heard my dad's friend play the bass, like there was enough in that like I have to do that. Like I heard enough in it that made me want to continue to pursue it. But with writing and producing, like there's not enough in it that really grabs me. Yeah. I like writing. I do like writing.
I can relate for sure. I mean,
production, that's not my vibe.
I mean, that's what I mean by not really catching that bug, because something has to hit you in the solar plexus,
right,
to make you go, I want to do that,
right.
Whether it's whether it's watching someone do it and getting turned on by the process, or just hearing some just really well made song and then finding out that this guy did this all on said program or whatever, and that being interesting. You know, it could be a number of things.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I learn about those, they're fascinating. But it's like, all right, like it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like respect that that's its own world. And if I'm not gonna get that deep in it, like I know how deep I am into this, and it's just like every aspect of it, the well goes that deep.
Right.
I can't. You know, if I really want to be great at something, like I can't have my hand in all the cookie jars.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've picked my lane.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely, dude. I can 100% relate to that, and yeah, we're similar in that way. It's like if to get into, you know, production and in the writing thing, you know, like you said, I am also very well aware that is a deep world that I'm never gonna maybe be able to, that I probably won't be able to go as deeply into as I'd maybe like to.
Sure.
So the only reason I would be doing it is either you know, for need,
mm-hmm.
or just because, you know, there's you know, you catch that bug that I keep talking about that just makes you really, regardless of how good you are at it, you just have to. You just want to do it.
Right.
And I'm like you. I'm also just not at that point. That could change.
Yeah, man. Something I get concerned about. I don't know if you've thought about this. The nature of the freelance musician in the age within the music business we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how old you are actually. How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, yeah. I'm 37.
Okay.
So,
I'm getting to a point where I'm just.
You have to decide before you say it. Like,
you're probably the last person that's gonna get a number out of me, because I'm to a point now where I'm just telling people I'm 30 something.
Yeah. I'm all right.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell them I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm 30 something. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. We're good here. Like when I started in 15, 16, and I'm looking at the guys who are like my age when I was younger. It was a viable career, and you could have a house. I mean, in Phoenix, you could have a house and a family, and you could be, playing resort gigs, and it was cool. But man, like gigs are paying the same, and like what is going on and with I get concerned about it a lot, and I wonder what it's gonna look like in 5 years.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, and I don't really know how to navigate that. I feel like something's got to change, right? And I don't really believe. I would love to believe, but I don't really think it'll go back at all.
I would agree with you. I don't think it's ever gonna visually look the way.
Sure.
The way we kind of picture it in the glory days of when you know.
You could go make a couple $100 on a Tuesday night.
Right, or when guys were doing 3 and 4 sessions a day if they wanted to. That's definitely changed, and that particular structure is probably not coming back anytime soon, and that's all right. I don't know, dude. And to be honest with you, I'm trying I'm sort of trying not to think too hard about it.
I don't know if I'm thinking like I'm not
not saying you're crazy, but
no, I don't have a bunch of anxiety about it, but I got to be aware of this,
Sure.
What the, like if I don't change with the times in some way, I'm gonna get bulldozed, because this playing just gigs to pay rent, that's really hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what's that gonna be in 5 years when like maybe all the DJs have taken over or clubs are just playing a Spotify list now? Like I don't know. It's I don't know what it's gonna be like. It's a scary idea. I mean, like even teaching with this, like doing not even dealing with the student face to face anymore. That's odd. Just creating curriculum to just throw against the wall, and then if anybody's interested, they check in.
Right.
That's way different than teaching at your local music store and having 20 students a week.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And neither one's better or worse, but it's
right. I was just gonna say I don't know if that's necessarily a step backwards.
No, it's not. But it's the reinventing. I guess is I'm looking all the time to see where we as musicians fall in that, and how to not be stuck in this old way of thinking. That's
Well,
I don't know what's going on there.
I think you're, my opinion, I think you're doing it right. I mean, I think as long as you're looking and
Sure.
I think just awareness is kind of the name of the game. I mean, as long as you're just aware that, things are going to change and you will have to adjust.
Sure.
And you're looking for that, and more importantly, are okay with that reality.
Yeah.
I at least for me, things have always kind of naturally sort of shown themselves.
Sure.
Like, okay, here's what we got to do. Like,
Yeah.
Did
the move to LA kind of unfold in an organic sense like that, or was that more of a purposeful?
It was,
like, I'm giving this 8 months, and I'm getting my things together in New York, and kind of I got a launch date to head to the West Coast, or was it more of an organic, like everything just pushing you in that direction?
A little of both. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of it came up organically, and then I think just anytime you do something like that,
move.
you have to kind of set a time frame. And
Yeah.
in my case, me and my wife at the time, who's now unfortunately my ex,
Sure. I know
we
how long were you married?
well, we were together a total of 13 years, married for a little over 5.
Okay.
But anyway, that's for another day.
Sure. Sure.
But we did, we both decided we wanted to give this a try. We were both, had been in New York that same amount of time.
Okay.
So, we had a lot of friends out here that had been out here for years and spoke well of what was going on. And also, like I was saying earlier, a lot of cats that had recently moved from New York out here, and within a few years just seemed to be doing so much better than they were on the East Coast. And, you see that happen over and over and over. You're like, okay, well, maybe there's
some validity to this.
Exactly. Maybe this isn't as fluky as it seems at first.
Yeah.
So that was I guess that was sort of the organic part of what sort of kind of drew us out here.
Yeah.
And then, we picked the time we did because our lease at our spot in Brooklyn ended. So we figured, all right, that's good enough a time as any to get out there and start working. And
that's a natural juncture, either to sign something new or look for a new spot. Right.
Mm-hmm. And we were both, flying back and forth quite a bit the first year, for one thing or another.
Just like scoping it out and getting a feel for it, or like looking at apartments, checking out parts of town to live in. Like, was it more recon or just kind of hang?
Well, when we were coming out here for research purposes, I guess you'd say it was both. We were definitely doing recon. I like that word. But part of the recon was just linking up with people that we know out here, and
of course,
because kind of it's enjoyable to spend time with people, and
and reconnect with people.
B, that's the best kind of recon. So
exactly, they're gonna let you know what's up,
right? But then even what I meant though is once we actually made the move out here for the first 6 months or so, I was definitely flying back to the city, once a month, every other month for one thing or another that, still made sense to hang on to.
Yeah.
Not even so much for money, just for, like some of the little bit of touring stuff I was doing that was based there.
Okay.
That would still rehearse there, and we kind of worked it out to where, okay, could you come back for this kind, stuff like that. But anyway, getting back to what you were saying though about where's things going as far as just being a freelancer.
Yeah, well, like you really, I mean, that's not a bad. That's probably a healthier, more healthy perspective. Healthier, more healthy. Do both of those work?
Yeah,
Okay. Healthier. Yeah, all right.
I like that.
All right. Either one. That's a better perspective than trying to when's the Jenga tower gonna fall. And I'm not quite there yet, but
and
I'm probably not.
For the record, I wasn't suggesting you're looking at it as a doom and gloom situation.
No, but maybe I am. I don't know. But I think you got a nice approach to it. It's just like, all right, things will sort themselves out. I guess I don't ever want to be caught off guard in my own life or career, because, like I remember when I first got to LA, MySpace was a thing.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to my brother about like, hey man, like, and my brother still lived back in Phoenix at the time. And like, yeah, well, like I'm gonna start building a website. I feel like I should have one while I'm out here, whatever. It's like, dude, why don't you just get a MySpace page? I'm like, what's that? Like, that whole thing in that part of the world, like I didn't know social media was happening, and it was still new and all that back then. But I never really got on that thing, and I feel like I don't know if there's regret there, but it's just like I mean I can still fix it, right? So it's not like it's gone. But it's like, all right, I didn't really jump on that one like I should have. And I still have a hard time with it. There's that.
Yeah, well,
I don't like what it is, and I don't like what it tends to mean.
mm-hmm.
You know, like if I'm not posting, then I'm not.
Then you're not doing it. Then not
Right, exactly. Then I don't exist.
Then you must be sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
My little kind of synopsis of social media and how it applies to what we do and just internet presence in general is it helps, and it is a part of it for sure.
Sure.
But it's just that it's a part of it.
Right.
You know, all the other pieces still need to be there.
Yeah.
You know, like in my experience, and again, I'm not an internet tycoon like a lot of other people, but you know, but having some internet social media presence, whatever you call it, has definitely helped.
Okay.
But it's never like quote sealed the deal on
Right.
most of the on the whatever on the little bit of success I've had.
Sure.
You know, some of it was helped by that, but it wasn't solely because Beyonce reposted something of mine or whatever sometimes happens.
Did you?
No.
Oh, okay. No, that's worth a shot.
I mean, hey, weirder shit has happened,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
But no, that's just example of, you know. But plus, you know, the thing that's, and I'm sure you've noticed this, is a lot of, and again, not all the time, but you've probably noticed that a lot of these artists that kind of come up because they got discovered from having a billion views on YouTube, they will have a career, but there's just no shelf life to
Right.
a lot of these anymore, because a lot of these artists are literally just that. They're, you know, people who
kind of some lives by the sword, die by the sword, you know?
Right.
Like,
You know,
if
they're-
you want to come up in that world, you got to go down with that world.
Right,
Because
they're-
there's going to be another one of you.
they're really exactly they're
Yeah.
really good at making a cool video at their house and
Yeah.
and getting it out there online because they're slick with, you know, how to share things and whatever. But but yeah, it's I think it's I'm starting to notice that there's, I mean, when was the last time you've heard of an artist that got discovered because of a viral video and is still kind of
Man.
really doing stuff? I mean, I know Bieber got started that way, but
Sure. But I feel like...
but
he did, but he was also... He got people behind him really quick.
Mhm.
And I don't know that much about him. I do get curious from the things I have
Well,
heard
his
about
favorite
him.
food is pizza, and his,
Specifically
and his favorite color is green. I
Yeah.
have no fucking idea.
Like, I wonder how much of that was just, like, a narrative that was also created by a marketing team. Like, hey, you know, initially maybe someone found him on YouTube, but, like, yeah, let's play that angle. Now he's this, like, diamond in the rough
For
that
sure.
we were just going to completely milk.
Mhm.
I don't know. You know, like, marketing is like politics to me. Like, I don't trust any of it.
Oh yeah,
You know, it's all just the dog and pony show. Like, whatever.
one of the best quotes I ever heard, or pieces of advice, was, "Nothing is ever what it seems."
Yeah, exactly. Who quoted? Who was it from?
Oh, that was my uncle.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't make that up,
Right.
but that's where I heard it.
Yeah, that's solid. And it's accurate. It's accurate, especially when it comes to the music business and marketing and/or politics.
Yep. So,
What do you got
But-
coming up?
well, like I said, this week is kind of mellow till the weekend. Then just doing playing with that band Tortured Soul out in Vegas. You know, that live house thing I was
Right.
telling you about, which sounds like a metal band, but
It does.
but it's not.
Right. It either sounds like a metal band or like a Christian rock band.
Yeah, like a dark Christian rock
Yeah,
band.
just like someone who's all like artsy but Christian rock bandy. It could go either way.
Yeah, I can assure you it is neither of those two things. And
And
then
it's kind of interesting that those two worlds
Mhm.
both are hitting my radar from one. They're opposite.
right?
Yeah.
And then when I get back from that, just I do a church gig a couple Sundays a month.
Nice.
A few different ones I bounce between.
Those are hard to
And-
land out here.
Like
I actually just did that one with Ryan Vaughn. Maybe I told you about that.
oh, that CCM one over. Oh yeah.
Way out east.
Oh, and where's that again?
Covina.
Oh yeah, I did that like twice.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Super cool. Yeah.
Um.
It's a. You know.
Yeah.
It's early.
Yeah, and Ryan's good people.
I love Ryan.
Yeah.
I went to college with him. That's how I know him.
That's right. You
in
guys are
Phoenix.
both Arizona people.
Yeah. We go I knew him when he was 19.
I know him from New York and the East Coast.
Right.
I forget he's not from there.
No, I think he came out. He went to New York. He went to New York a little bit before I came here. Yeah, I was in school with him when I had that accident I was telling you about.
Gotcha.
So that was 03, and I think he went to William Patterson in 04. I think. I don't know.
Okay. No, that timeline wise, from what I can remember, that makes sense.
Okay. But yeah, I love playing with Vaughn.
Oh, not to totally go left here, but because I kept getting sidetracked. But when you're asking about like advice to give to people coming here, the other half of what I was going to say, I'm just because I don't want to forget it, is okay. So one, be willing to do the work and go out and be social and all that business. Have some sense of focus of what you're here to do.
Yeah.
But and this is going to sound counterintuitive to what I just said, but be a little bit flexible.
Right. Be malleable.
Yeah. Just here's what I have noticed about it. A big difference between LA and New York is scenes out here and just kind of cliques of people and all that tends to cross-pollinate more than it did in New York.
Okay.
In New York, if you were playing on that West Village scene, the odds are you were only going to meet more people in that same scene.
Yeah.
If you were doing Broadway gigs, you're only going to meet Broadway people. If you're doing wedding and club date, shit as they call it out there,
Right.
you're only going to meet more of those people. Where out here, even in my short time, I've met a lot of people involved in a lot of things that that I'm interested in and would like to be involved with, doing gigs and sessions that seemingly had nothing to do with any of that other stuff.
With where you met them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That seems to happen a lot out
Sure.
here, as opposed to on the East Coast, where everything seemed a little more insular,
Okay.
as they would say. So just be open to that possibility. I mean, if someone calls you for a gig or something and you just don't like this person, or it's going to be trash, I mean, use your intuition, but
Sure.
but I guess don't be so hyper focused that it keeps you from doing some other things.
Yeah. Now you came out here already being a pro. What would you speak to a younger generation interested in coming to LA from any city? Like what needs to be together outside of fundamentals? Like know a handful of tunes, like being able to get around your instrument, good time, good attitude, all that. Any specific little since
I would no, go ahead.
because like the newness to you in LA, it's more on your radar right now of like, okay, like, this is way different than New York. So while this is on your radar, how would you maybe tell a student about who's thinking about coming out here?
I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying, what we were talking about earlier about kind of like knowing music and knowing some songs and tunes and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the best thing you can do, especially if you're younger and trying to get started and just trying to get on some gigs that'll eventually lead you to people that can put you on bigger and bigger things and so on. Yeah, know some tunes.
Right.
Whatever scene you're, a part of, really dig, spend some time digging into that repertoire.
Right.
Just because that's kind of, that's sort of the basic language of what's going on. And
I mean, those are the dudes that get the calls, right? The guys that it's like he knows the tunes. I don't have to email a tune list. I don't have to text a tune list. I don't have to say anything.
Right.
All I have to do is call this guy and then call this tune, and it makes my job easier.
Absolutely. And I think it sort of builds a sense of trust with who you're working with, because
Sure.
even if you are just the most burning dude, if you show up to something, someone made a really good analogy. It's like, let's say you go to a doctor who's known for being a great doctor. He's known for being the best at what he does, and you tell him, I need knee surgery, and his first question to you is, knee surgery, where's the knee again?
Yeah, right.
You know, you're gonna be like, I don't give a shit what your reputation is. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of same thing. Like if someone calls you to play some rock gig and they call a fairly common Hendrix tune, and you're like, what is that?
Right.
That's automatically puts people less at ease.
Sure.
And even if you're, no, I mean, it's obviously none of our goals are to play covers for the rest of our lives, but also at jam sessions, at least the way it worked in New York is like if you were to go sit in at the Village Underground on a Sunday or Monday night, whoever was playing bass would just say, yeah, hop up, and you would basically be playing up there as long as you knew the songs.
Right.
As soon as you didn't know something.
Way different than the LA model, which is like one, maybe two, and then we'll get somebody else up there, or the house guy.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a lot of guys wanting to play, they would move it along. But
Sure.
but if there wasn't, if the house guy felt comfortable with you, as long as you knew the songs that kept coming up, he would just leave you up there. And, so it kind of became like the goal to be like, okay, well, if I'm going to go hang and sit in, let's see how long I can stay up for.
Right.
And that just, which gives you more opportunity to play and be heard.
Sure.
And vibe with people.
And be recognized for knowing material.
Yeah. I think that's something that's a little overlooked.
Okay.
Especially with younger players.
Yeah.
And it's only going to help your musicianship.
Of course. Of course.
Just
what are some key records you think outside of Michael and Stevie? So like outside of, if you're going to like know some R&B, like outside of Shaka, Michael Jackson,
in the R&B world,
Stevie Wonder, and like all the normal like Al Green and like.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
what are like some records? What are some records like? Yeah, this is gonna get called, but it's not necessarily.
Well, let's see here. I mean, if you're dealing with like singers, if like there's a singer in the mix in that world, I'm just thinking of what comes up. Female singers, they always, a lot of them want to do Erykah Badu songs.
Okay.
So, it's good. No record Mama's Gun, no Baduism, no the live one.
Right. Puff. I played Puff a lot off Worldwide Underground.
Yep, that'll come up. And the other one from that record is it's called I Want You. It's what with that starts with a keyboard. Yeah, that'll pop up sometimes. And also thinking of female singers, like a lot of singers that do that kind of music are pulling a lot from like 90s stuff. So like a lot of Mary J. Blige tunes will come up all the time.
Right.
A lot of Lauryn Hill stuff pops up.
That whole record. I was geeking out on that record the other night. I love Miseducation.
Yep. Yeah, she's nuts, but that's a great record.
that came up too. Have you had encounters with her?
No, but I've played with damn near everyone who's been in her band, and they've all
had something.
Got a story.
Sure.
And that could be a whole nother
episode
for sure. People who have played with Lauryn Hill and what they think. So let's see. That's always good to know. All those first couple of Jill Scott records, stuff's gonna come up off of that, and then even going back a little further, like some of the Blackstreet stuff, and a lot of the stuff that Teddy Riley was involved with back then. That seems to kind of find its way in there.
Yeah.
So that's something that's maybe as far as stuff that I've found kind of gets called in that world, but maybe isn't quite as on the radar as the Stevie and the Marvin and the Michael.
Right. So it's not like the 101 Rock With You or Signed Sealed or whatever.
Right.
But it's gonna get called like all those are. Jill Scott's definitely a big one.
Yep.
Golden, Long Walk.
Cool,
man.
And Prince stuff is always good to know for that, of course. There's the hits, and then there's some B-sides of his that'll pop up from here. But it all depends on who you're.
Yeah,
who
there's
you're
always
with,
that, and then at some point it does get so overwhelming because everybody's got their 60 tunes, and there's a core that everybody at some point, but then there's maybe like 15 or 20. It's just like, oh, okay, I gotta go check that out.
Yeah,
which is great because you get to learn something new.
Right. Absolutely. So that's kind of helped me sort of find my way into things, is just having a little bit of a repertoire.
Yeah.
I'd say that would be my one thing, especially for younger players, because I think the younger and younger they are, I feel like the less and less.
Because you can pull it up on your phone.
Right.
That's the thing, man. Like, I kind of wish. Now, I'm slightly a hypocrite because I've done it at jams. Like, I'll pull up a tune. But I really wish the jam sessions had some rules about that. You know, like, I wish that, and I kind of, in the back of my mind, I feel like I get it, right? Whoever's leading the jam wants to keep the club happy, to keep the gig going. Mm-hmm. So you want people out there, if they're sitting in, then they're going to wait their turn, they're going to buy the drink, whatever. It's heads in the room. It's a hustle. But I really do wish, like, jam sessions would be, like, no phones.
Mm-hmm. It definitely takes the vibe out of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And like, if you don't know it, you don't know it.
Right. And look, hey, we're human. Nobody knows everything.
Right, not you.
So,
right.
Learn it for next time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, and that's cool, too.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the phone. I mean, I think it's... I mean, look, if you're playing all night and you're, like, in a house band and some horn player calls some...
Yeah.
Calls some Wayne Shorter tune that's maybe not quite on everybody's radar.
Right.
And everybody wants to do it, then, fine.
Yeah.
As long as you're not buried in your phone all night long.
Right.
It's the same thing with... I know cats who are just, like, really weird about people reading music on stage sometimes.
In general?
Just in general, yeah. Huh. It's like, look, it's... Obviously, if this is a band or you play with all the time, or a gig you do every week, yeah, you probably shouldn't have your head in the page.
Right.
After doing it for 6 months, but shit, if you're just hired to play for someone and you're probably never going to play this music again, and there was only time for one rehearsal, of course you're going to read the shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've done it. At, like, Hotel Cafe, when it's like an artist,
Right.
I got the iPad out because, like, I got the tunes 2 days ago and there was no rehearsal or a quick run through in someone's basement.
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm reading
charts. Do your homework so you're not, like, hyper dependent and you can't even glance away from it, but
sure.
Nothing wrong with having some notes.
No. I'm fine with notes. More just I think there's a distinct, and I'm sure you'd agree, a distinct difference between knowing material versus reading it off your phone, and then, like, a pickup gig where you're reading notes. Like,
exactly.
Just the working value of having a repertoire together.
Right. You know how it is. You work with an artist, and you spend some time with the music, but still, it's like, it'll be like the day before the gig, and you're going through it, and you're like, okay. Like, what I like to do is I'll try to do if I have a reasonable amount of time, I'll sit with it as much as I can, play through it, and try to, internalize as much as I can. And then by, like, the day before, or even that day, when I realize, okay, this, and this is not sticking, that's when I just write, like, okay,
a little note.
Bridge has extra bar.
Yeah.
On such and such song, and
right.
second verse is twice as, things like that.
Yeah. The little variables.
Yeah. Those kind of notes.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, man. Thanks for letting me
that's cool.
talk a bunch of shit.
Anytime, dude. That's what we do.
I mean, I hope...
you got a website or anything you want to put out there? You get any kind of...
What are your links? I don't have my own website. I mean, I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
That's got some stuff. I have to record some new stuff for that, because even the most recent stuff on that is a few years old now.
What do you record? Like, you doing baseline covers? You doing your own thing? You blowing on changes?
So,
a little of all of that.
So on the YouTube channel, it's mostly band stuff.
Okay.
That I recorded in the studio with. The first handful I did was with a trio. Then the second one was with a 4-piece band, one of which has a singer on it.
Okay.
So, and if you just type in Bryan Ladd bass on YouTube, that you'll find it.
Okay.
And then, the kind
of you have a very Irish sounding name.
Oh yeah, it's actually
But you look like you're Italian. What's your ethnicity?
You kind of nailed it. But let me just.
Okay.
We'll get there in a second.
Okay.
'Cause that's a story. But so go there. That's on YouTube, and then if you go to Bryan Ladd Bass on Instagram, that's where I do mostly just like little short, clips of sometimes blowing on changes, sometimes just working out ideas over a drum groove, sometimes little covers of songs I like.
Okay.
But Instagram, that's more of like the quickie kind of
Right.
stuff.
What's the time limit on that? Like a minute? Or
I don't think you
something,
can. Yeah, I think, and if you record more than a minute, then it converts it to like 2 videos that you have to scroll through. And
right? Okay.
I've kind of stopped recording full length things for Instagram just because I found that nobody listens beyond 30 seconds to a minute if you're lucky.
Yeah, possible. Like I mean,
I'm not hating on it, but that's
No,
just
no, no.
that's
I mean,
just
like,
that's just that model.
I run the Instagram for this whole thing, the Bass Shed, and obviously I do. I don't know, like why would I be subbing that up? But I don't do videos on there. Like I don't ever really post of myself playing. I don't know how any of it works. Like I would have to Google how to do it.
How to make a video of yourself?
Yeah, well, no, not how to make a video, but like the time restraints or like, because you just record live, right? It's just like a live stream straight to Instagram?
I don't. I actually...
Or do the video app and then upload it?
Yeah, just video. I go from my little... I plug my bass into my little Aguilar...
Yeah.
AG700.
You're endorsed, right?
Yeah.
A little shout out to Aguilar?
Yeah. They're the shit.
Yeah. No, I love this.
And then I just take a line off that into this... Someone got me this really easy little thing called a roll and go mixer. And it's basically, it's like...
Where it plugs right into your phone?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it just mixes your bass sound or your guitar, whatever instrument you play, or you could sing into it through, run a mic to it. And you can also mix in like, the track from if you're trying to play along to something.
Sure.
And it's just a way better sounding mix than if you just put an amp in the room and...
Yeah. I've, like, doing these videos, I got a whole hustle set up, but I had originally planned on doing it straight to the phone, like this other phone I had, that way. But then it was like, I didn't know if I was going to be flying in another track too, or like if I needed another track for metronome, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, basically. So I didn't do all that. Now I just do it on the software. Basically, it's all this rig with an actual HD camera, and I got like soft box lights, and it's a whole movie set. It's pretty ridiculous.
So that's a way better production than what I do when I record these little clips. But
probably the same sound though.
But it's easy though. It's just it's right in there. You can do a couple takes. And the reason I don't do the live thing is because I like to be able to chop off the first 10 seconds where I'm tapping on and clicking play and all that. And that way I can kind of edit it, for time because I think on Instagram if it goes over a minute, it'll just restart it anyway.
Okay. Just create a loop of itself?
Yeah. I think that's how it works. On Facebook video, I think you can do like whole videos and stuff.
Okay.
But everyone's so Instagram crazy these days that it kind of helps to have something there too.
Man, what's gonna become quicker? You know what I mean? Like, because it's just become more and more digestible, right? It was Facebook, that was then Twitter, like just the news feed, minimal interaction. It's not quite the same, just the headline. That's really fast. Now you don't even have to read; it's just a picture. With Instagram, like read if you want. Like, what's gonna be next? That's what I'm always thinking.
I don't know.
Like, where are things going? I'm scared about where things are going.
I'm the wrong dude for that question.
I got an Amber Alert on my phone the other day, which that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But my phone was linked to the Bluetooth stereo in my car. Everything in my car goes silent because the Amber Alert like blocked it all out. The music that was going from my phone and I immediately got freaked out. One, it sucks for the Amber Alert, whatever happened there. I hope that person's okay. But they can reach millions of people with whatever the agenda is. Like, yes, an Amber Alert's a good thing. Everybody be on the watch for someone who's abducted. That's good. But that could be used for evil. And
hell yeah.
And that just scares the hell out of me. Just like how they can tap into everybody's life. Scares me. That is another topic.
Yeah, I mean, it already has been used in
it already is
horrible
being
ways
used
for But what you were saying about
back to Instagram.
Well, the other thing, but you were asking about my Irish sounding last name. It's actually I guess you could call it a false last name because here's what happened.
What generation made the chop?
So my mother is Italian.
Okay.
So is
mine.
So that's why I look that way.
Yeah.
And my father is he's from a Jewish family. His he grew up in Long Island. His parents are are from the Bronx.
Okay.
And so my grandfather, so I guess this would be my great grandfather was the first to change the name. It was Cohen, which is a very Jewish sounding name.
Sure.
And the reason they changed it was because
That's quite a leap.
Well, and here's why. My grandfather's brother, my uncle, was applying for medical school, and all these schools had more than met their quota of Jewish students. It's a real thing. The Jewish doctors, and
right.
Even back then, they still wanted a diverse student population.
Sure.
So they were seeing all these applications come in and just reading the names like Cohen or Goldstein or whatever.
Yeah.
And going next. We already got enough kind of thing. So kind of realizing that was a problem, my grandfather actually, I guess this would be my great grandfather, changed the family name legally, and they had a clothing store for men called Ladd's Clothing.
Okay.
And just took that as the last name because it's pretty. It's kind of non-descriptive as far as ethnicity.
Right.
And the thing is, they had to actually keep it for real though, because if they put a fake name on the application and then they investigated, well, then that would be a problem.
Right. And then there goes the education that they were trying to get into.
Right.
You're going to get the boot. Right.
So that's where the name comes from.
Playing heads up ball, right? That's really really watching, being aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
And taking it that far. I can respect that.
I think, well, and I don't think it was that big of a secret at the time that they were, that a lot of these schools wanted a diverse
Was this
population.
a common practice? Do you know? Like, how much have you talked to your grandparents about it?
Not that much, but I do know that's a story. That's a story as far as I know,
Sure.
But that's been going on. Goes on today. I mean,
right.
at Berkeley, I mean, a lot of this, and they weren't, there's nothing illegal about this. They were definitely giving certain amounts of scholarship to students of different ethnicities, and
sure.
Because it's, as an institution, it's
Keep it diverse.
right. It looks better to have a diverse, so that's just. I think that's just
kind of. So then you're actually Jewish and Italian.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was not raised Jewish at all. I was not bar mitzvahed or anything.
Right.
Like, my dad grew up his parents, they were Jewish, but very loose about it. And my mom is an Italian, grew up Italian Catholic. Yeah. So, and all
deep in it, or just kind of like back burner?
But also, I mean, my grandparents on that side, they're still fairly deep in it, but loose enough to where is not something that she really cared to hang on to that strongly. Yeah. So between my dad being Jewish but not really that heavy into it growing up, and my mom not being that heavy into her religion, they just kind of let it go.
Okay.
We're spiritual, but we don't subscribe to
either
to any set organized religion.
Sure.
And
both of those are really strong. Like the Italian Catholic and obviously Judaism is both of those are heavy cultures within themselves.
They are. They are for sure. And my grandparents on both sides are characters.
Are they deep in it?
Well, they're not deep in the religion part of it, I wouldn't say, but they embody a lot of those. Just, this is gonna sound really. Sorry if I offend anybody here, but they do embody some of those funny just stereotypes about Italian Catholics and Jewish folks from the Bronx.
Right.
They talk funny. It's just. But as far as the religion, that didn't really. That wasn't really a part of my upbringing.
Right. My mom is from Buffalo, New York, and her maiden name is Greco, so she's Italian,
right?
Full-blooded Italian. But even on her side of the family, like, everybody's kind of aware. Like, those grandparents had, like, maybe some, like, painted dishes with Jesus or the praying hands on it, or, like, some crucifixes or something. But they weren't, like, it wasn't this really heavy Catholic vibe there. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's kind of similar to that, that my mom came up in. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, it's there. And, like, they were great people, very moral people. Everything was centered. It was cool. But no one was really...
It wasn't like it wasn't a church every Sunday. They weren't going to mass all the time. They would, but it wasn't. It wasn't a that thing.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to my grandparents on my
Right.
mom's side. My grandparents on my dad's side, they've both passed in the last 5 to 10 years. But on my mom's side, yeah, it's very similar. Like they'll have a picture of of Jesus on the wall in one of the rooms.
There's
and,
a Last Supper plate.
yeah,
Like a plate propped up.
exactly.
With the,
Yep.
Yeah, in a thing with other plates and cups.
Yeah,
Like,
they got a couple of those,
yeah.
but and I think they still go to church most Sundays, but it's a Catholic mass. It's 1 hour and
Right.
then that's the end of it.
Yeah, those are pretty.
But yeah, sounds like there are our folks are coming from similar
similar
worlds there.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah,
dude. Did you say your links? We started to. We got you on. What's your YouTube channel?
It's let me double check what it's actually called. I might have to actually send you. Let me just text you this link, I guess.
Like, I don't know. I know you can get a personalized YouTube URL. It's kind of a process,
Which I think,
and it's
I
so
might
daunting.
have, but
I give up. Like, I tried to do one for the Bass Shed, and I'm retarded with that stuff. And I have more important things to do than figure out, having it read /Bass Shed. Like, I got
yeah.
like,
Nah, as long as people can find it.
yeah. I might just leave all this in for everybody playing along at home. My phone is screwed up, and I have to go take it to get repaired. I dropped it last week and just broke the screen, but then the LCD situation underneath it got messed up, and I can't unlock my phone because the touchscreen doesn't work.
Nah.
So that's where I'm at for everybody playing along at the house.
Okay, so I just sent you an actual link to the YouTube channel.
Is 860?
That's me, yeah.
Not to air out your phone number.
Well, if they can guess the next 7 numbers to find me, then
Man, you'll do the gig then.
yeah. And then Instagram is just Bryan Ladd Bass, but it's Bryan with a Y.
Okay.
Otherwise, a different guy will show up.
Right. You're playing Aguilar and you're still playing Federa? Any other brands you're repping?
Aguilar, Federa. I mean, I've got a couple of Fender basses. I mean, I'm not really connected with them, but
Right.
still play those all the time.
J or P?
Got a J, got a P, and then a 5-string active J,
Okay.
which I play all the time too.
Yeah.
They're all a little different, so
Sure.
they all have a place in my life.
Yeah, of course. What year P? Because there was a couple years there where they were making the bodies really light, and I thought it lost the mojo of a P bass because like the body was lighter, so it wasn't resonating the same. And it didn't have that P bass kind of grit when you really.
Fender definitely went through a phase where they're making, as far as I can tell, really good stuff now. But they went through a phase where the stuff was less than.
Yeah.
The P that I have it's relatively new. It's like maybe 5 years old.
Okay.
So I guess that would make it like a
Just straight up passive P.
Yep.
Nothing. Yeah. Cool.
that would make it like a 2014.
Yeah. All right.
I think the J that I have is about 10 or 11 years old.
Okay.
And the 5-string J that I have is also about 4 or 5 years old. So they're all relatively new.
Yeah. I like those like smaller bodies they did in the late '90s. Remember those 7/8 bodies they did on the jazz bass?
Kind of. I'd
I was
have to
really
see
into
one to
those.
really.
Like they just looked so sleek. Really into it. And then like they got into like the big horns again, and it looked a little goofy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, hey,
Nah.
God bless them for trying new
yeah,
stuff.
no, they're
though.
doing
Hey,
stuff,
you
and I
know?
have the time in my life to be able to think about this, so things aren't all that bad. I get to think about the shape of Fender bass bodies.
Oh, I thought of someone for.
Oh yeah, who do you got?
Maybe. I feel like Lee Sklar doesn't get enough love these days.
Man, I just met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to get him on the podcast.
Oh, dude, he'd be great.
Yeah.
He's got some really cool like interviews floating around on YouTube that I think he did relatively recently.
I saw him in Petitucci, like,
Yeah,
sitting there. Did you see that one?
that was one
I
of
like
them.
that one a lot.
They're just talking, and he actually had a really good. Speaking of like, where's the scene going and freelance and how that's going to look, he had a really interesting thing to say, and you can,
on one of those videos.
Are we still on?
Yeah, we're still
Okay. If you are listening to this and want to go check it out, you'll hear him say this, and he says it better than me. But it was something like some younger player had approached him, whether it was a lesson or something, and he said so. He said, "It says I would love to have the same kind of career as you, just playing on records and touring with the people that you actually played on the record with, and just having that amount of studio work." And the thing Lee Sklar says is, he says, "All right, well, here's what you need to do. You need to go to your father's garage and build yourself a time machine." Because it's just not happening like that.
Not it. Yeah. Right.
And he wasn't saying it douchey at all. He was just saying like,
sure, like that's just not the scene anymore.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can't think of anybody who,
But-
is dude, like the cats cutting the record are not the dudes doing the tour.
yeah.
Like that's just not it.
And but yeah, as far as like another guy to transcribe, I mean, yeah, maybe some of the stuff he did with James Taylor, and then just as a total 180, maybe that Billy Cobham record he played on.
Oh, which one is that?
It's called Spectrum.
Okay, I don't have that one.
It's you've probably heard some of these songs. It's like kind of became sort of a fusion like classic.
Okay.
It's got like Red Baron on it, and
Okay.
and that song Stradish, dee doo dee doo doo dee doo
Yeah,
dee doo
yeah,
doo. Yeah, and that's Lee playing all that shit.
Okay. Chuck Rainey's gonna make an appearance, dude. I was doing a session with Yaji like 2 weeks ago,
Oh, cool.
and
Love that guy.
yeah, me too. And there was something going on like in the neighborhood, like there's helicopters going on, and the street right here was all closed off, like with tapes. And so we were waiting till the helicopters died down to hit record because you could hear it in the room.
that'll bleed.
Yeah, right. And so we're just like hanging out in the control room, and Yaji's just like, "Dude, check this out!" And he pulls up the theme to Sesame Street. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Chuck Rainey." I'm like, "Really? Have you checked that out lately? Like, check out the old Sesame Street.
Okay.
Like the shuffle on that is ridiculous. I mean, I'm not gonna transcribe Sesame Street, but it's worth like everybody should check it out.
Oh, dude.
Chuck
yeah,
Rainey is a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fact.
Is he in New York? Is he out here? I don't know where
he
he's
lives in Dallas, I think.
Really?
Last I heard.
at. Okay.
Last I heard. I could have been given misinformation. That could have changed, but to my knowledge, I think that's where he is.
Right.
And I
Jerry
think he's
Jamont's out. He's been active in the last few years out here.
here in LA.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's been a New York guy since the beginning of time.
Yeah. No, I was doing this brunch gig on Sundays with a guitar player who was playing with him.
He's another guy
Yeah.
that'd be great to
Absolutely. Like
You
all
know,
those dudes.
like do some of that King Curtis shit that he played on.
Yeah.
Man.
Fun projects, things that are inspiring you, records you're listening to. Yeah, what are you listening to? Or I've been trying to get this happening, and a couple guys have told me the story, but I ended up editing it out for the sake of time. But we're well over what time usually is, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Worst gig. What's the story?
Worst gig. Okay.
Or just like a gnarly gig story. If it's not a worst gig, or you don't want to throw anybody under the bus or whatever. Like, you don't have to name names.
No, and even if I did, you wouldn't know who these
Okay.
people are anyway. I think the worst. Well, I've played like some weddings that were just so brutally long
Okay.
and in such terrible sounding rooms that it was really painful. But I think as far as just overall musically terrible, like
Or just something happened that was weird on the gig. Like, it was just, the night just turned into a cluster for whatever reason.
okay, well, back in Brooklyn, I did get sucker punched in between in between sets. There was my. If we're still on my, so
By who?
I will tell you.
Okay.
This was a super hood place in Brooklyn called Essence Bar and Lounge.
Okay.
Used to play there with this singer. We would do like old ass Sam Cooke tunes and
Yeah.
that kind of vibe, and that's
Okay.
what they liked there.
Just
And
like old soul.
yeah,
Yeah.
like just right on Atlantic and Troy in the middle of Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, which now Bed-Stuy has gotten pretty cleaned up and gentrified and whatever. This block is still bad. You still don't want to go to, you still don't want to go there, but there was a little bodega on the corner, like halfway up the block from the
Yeah.
club. So on my break I would always go and grab something.
Sure.
And I should have known better than to go by myself, but I would do it all the time and never had an issue. But what I mean, the reason I should have known better is because it becomes just a walk-up window after dark behind bulletproof glass, which should kind of tell you something.
There's a reason for that.
So, and I was kind of in a hurry because we were about to start, so I was running, and I think I had like $2 or something visible in my hand as I was walking up to the window. So I walk up to the window, I knock on the thing to get the guy's attention, and I get punched in the back of the head.
For the $2?
Well, so I didn't actually get knocked out, but it disoriented me, and I turned around to see what the fuck is going on, and then as soon as I turn around, I get punched in the face. And this disoriented me enough for this, I'm assuming, was some kind of crackhead to wrestle the $2 out of my hand and just bolt. Okay. I still, to this day, I can't tell you what this guy looked like. Could have been a little old lady for all I know. Yeah. But that sucked.
So and then you have to go back and play the. Then you have to go back and play.
Yeah.
The set.
So now I got a bloody nose. I look like shit. I'm pissed, and I got to go play the set.
Right, and you didn't get whatever you're going there for, like a cup of coffee or a hamburger, or whatever.
Didn't even get my RC Cola or whatever the hell, whatever cheap soda they sold there. That sucked, and then, but it did teach me that I can take a punch in the face like a pro.
Yeah, from an old lady.
Yeah, from maybe an old lady. I'm gonna give myself a little more credit that it probably wasn't an old lady, but yeah. And then I think the worst gig musically though is I think like one of my old teachers had put me in touch with some singer that I'd never met who had just booked a gig at just some bar, and it was just such a clusterfuck, like beyond your average clusterfuck of a gig. Okay. And I was still relatively new to New York at the time, and didn't have a lot going on, so I took it.
Yeah, of course. Was it a really young band?
No, it was
or a really old band.
Kind of in between. It was just a bunch of people that just don't play music very often. And what struck me was this drummer was so bad and so loud. Yeah. To this day I have yet to play with a drummer this just loud. That can just draw this much volume out of a snare drum. Okay. Than this guy. And it was not
he a big guy. Was he moving a lot of mass?
He was a big dude, but it wasn't like a good loud.
No,
it was just a like.
He has no control of the instrument loud.
Yeah. But rather than it coming out as just kind of weak and sloppy, it came out as loud as hell and sloppy. I don't even remember.
So would you rather relive the punch in the back of the head or playing with him? Let's take note of how long it's taking.
I'll take the punch in the head because that was actually a good gig musically. The only reason I wouldn't want to take the punch in the head is actually getting hit really wasn't that big a deal. It was just looking like shit for a week and having to answer what happened. What happened? Right. If I didn't have the markings and had to answer that question,
or you didn't have to tell the story every day, 5 times a day, 20 times a day.
Yeah, for like the next 2 weeks. Yeah. If I didn't have to do that, I'd take getting hit in the head and just shaking that off and going back and playing music I like versus Mutant Drummer.
How many sets was Mutant Drummer? Like how long was that gig?
It was long enough to where it really was rough.
Right, it's that memorable.
It was. Yes, this was. This is definitely on the books in the top 4 or 5 worst.
That's hilarious. And I don't even know what some of mine are. I remember I used to play country music in Phoenix. I was in this country cover band. The band leader booked us, and we were playing in Flagstaff, and it was snowing. And he's like, dude, we're playing for this like Christmas parade downtown. It's snowing out. He's like, we're gonna be on a float, and we're gonna play on the float, and they're gonna drive us through downtown.
Great.
And it's snowing outside. I'm like, dude, Pat, retard. Everybody in that band was really close. Like we're really close friends. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, I don't know if I could say the R word. I just realized I said that. Apologize.
What R word?
I called Pat a retard.
Oh, that
like,
yeah,
I don't know if you can say that.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't, but
but I did. Anyways, back then it was okay, and that's what I said to him back then. The float was maybe a 1976 Ford Bronco, like the big ones, not the OJ small Ford Bronco, like the big one. I don't think it's passed admissions since 1976, and we're being pulled on a flatbed just trailer. It's snowing outside. We have to play country music while being pulled around downtown Flagstaff.
So it's
outside.
cold as hell, and your shit is getting wet.
And we are breathing in the exhaust
No.
of this for probably about 2.5 hours. That was one of my worst.
Wow.
It's hard to explain. You kind of had to be there. Me and the guitar player relived that tragedy sometimes.
I can relate. I've definitely done some outdoor gigs in weather that was far less.
Well, yeah,
than,
especially in New York. That's got to be. There's got to be some of those.
I mean, 99% of the time, people are smart enough not to book an outdoor gig
Right.
when it would be cold. But you book an outdoor gig to be middle of April, and sometimes it still feels like winter. And
Yeah, but there's the humidity too. You guys got that back there, right? Like, do you ever play just in some gnarly humidity?
oh yeah. Well, that's the other thing. In the summer, you do an outdoor gig, and it can be just brutally hot.
Right. Yeah, here, like, I'm complaining at 82 degrees. Like, why is it so warm outside?
Doing like kind of fancy gigs, outdoor fancy gigs in the summer where you got to wear a suit, and that sucks.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
But not as bad as Mutant Drummer.
Yeah. Whew. You'd rather have the punch in the head. I like it.
Again, if there wasn't,
right.
if there wasn't
fallout,
if I didn't have the fallout and have to tell people what happened all the time.
sure, you could just give them like a pamphlet. Like, here's the story, on a nice little handout.
Yeah, man.
Cool, man. Let's go make sure your car doesn't get a ticket.
Perfect.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. That was the conversation with Bryan Ladd. That's his story. I'm sticking to it. I will have all his links on the page, the podcast page on the website. Since April, when I had a cracked screen and then like the touch screen thing wouldn't work, I got the screen fixed. Then the phone was cool, and then the charging port on the bottom. It's hilarious, all the drama I've gone through with just the phone in the last few months. Then the charging port on the bottom of that phone stopped working, so it wouldn't charge. Then I had to just go get a whole new phone, which sucked, right? It's just one of those things when you realize, like, oh, today's the day that I got to go deal with this all finally. I can't keep wiggling this thing around and finding the sweet spot and just gently setting it down and walking away for about an hour. Although I'm happy to not do that little dance anymore to charge the phone. Anyways, all that to say is I've gone through another phone. I got to dig out the all the links he did text me, and those will be on the website, on the podcast page, next to his picture and the short little synopsis of the episode, which is I think 1 sentence long. It's not a lot. But that's what's going on. Next week we're talking to an upright player whose name I can't fully pronounce. I'm not gonna lie. I had him pronounce it, and I just said okay. Like, cool. That's what it is. I don't know if I can duplicate it. He's a fantastic bass player. A doubler. He's working on his doctorate at USC right now, studying with Dark Holes. So that's what's coming up next week, and that's what's happening, folks. Be good, and I'll catch you on the next one.